mind over matter, where resilience becomes your superpower and healing becomes your new normal. Today's radiant guest is Aneta Waclaw, a personal guide who turned personal pain into purposeful transformation. After breaking free from a toxic relationship, Anita made it her mission to help others rebuild self worth, rewire their mindset, and break the chains of generational patterns. She is here to show us how falling in love with yourself isn't just possible, it's essential. If you ever felt stuck, small, or silenced, this episode will speak straight to your soul. So, Anita, leaving a toxic relationship is one thing, but healing afterward is a whole different journey. What helped you begin that process of reclaiming yourself?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest steps is to really acknowledge when you're in an unhealthy relationship is that it is not okay, and the situations that you once tolerated, you have to understand that you're no longer going to tolerate those. So really understanding that those things are not okay and you are worthy of more. So first step is being awareness and acknowledging that the situations are unhealthy and you deserve more.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, was there a moment when you realized that you were finally healing, not just surviving?
Yeah, there was a point in time where, I mean, it took me about 3 years to leave my unhealthy relationship. So when it comes to unhealthy relationships and people say they know that they want to get out, but they're not ready, I have a lot of compassion for people who are not fully ready, and that's okay. But the first step is awareness and really finding a community, or if not a community, somebody that you can trust, that you can talk to about these situations, and to know that you're not alone. Because I think a lot of times we get into our heads when we're in these unhealthy situations that we think that we're alone or we're the only ones going through it, or some so and so is going to judge me for tolerating these kinds of behaviors. But at the end of the day, all you know is all you know. So if you're not familiar with healthy patterns or healthy relationships, then how are you going to know what one is if all you've experienced is unhealthy?
Mm-hmm. That's so honest. Healing isn't a straight line, but each step is a revolution in self worth.
Yeah, completely. And I think a lot of times, like most people say, "Oh, I'm healing. Oh, I'm healing." But at the end of the day, what does that really mean to you? You really have to break it down and take it step by step. I was saying for maybe a year and a half, yeah, I'm healing. And I wasn't upset about the relationship anymore. But at the end of the day, I was still carrying the baggage and the hurt and the fear that was associated with the wounds from my last relationship. And I really had to look myself in the mirror and say, like, this, I deserve better. This is not what I want. But at the end of the day, I had to understand that these are the situations that I went through. And it's okay because that's all I knew at the time. So really understand, give yourself grace and compassion, and tell yourself that you are worthy. And sometimes that means letting go of people, places, things that were associated with where that pain or those wounds came from. And that's okay. Because I always recommend people, it's better to take the road less traveled than to choose to be the popular person, because the road less traveled is going to show you who you are. It's going to give you more clarity on your purpose and who you're meant to be and who you're meant to be around.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, you talk about rewiring the mindset after trauma. What beliefs did you have to unlearn to love yourself again?
Yeah, I mean, I was in my last relationship, there was a lot of gaslighting, manipulation. He was always constantly putting me down by telling me that I'm not worthy. And over the time of 3 years, like I started to believe that at some point. Like I wouldn't believe that I'm worthy of better things. I wouldn't believe that I'm better worthy of someone who treats me better because he would always constantly remind me that I'm never going to find somebody better than him. He's the best thing. But those are all lies. And one of the biggest things is unlearning that by saying everything that person was telling me, it was a lie. And then you have to go back and learn to rewire your mindset by telling yourself positive things. I am worthy. I am loved. I am capable of better opportunities, of better people in my life. I attract people who want to add value to my life, not just people who just want to take. And I think that was the biggest mindset shift is taking the negative things that were put into you and flipping them because the negative were just lies. I think a lot of times that when somebody tells you negative things about yourself, it's just a self reflection of who they are. And you should never listen to those kinds of comments. I know it's easier said than done, but at the end of the day, nobody knows you the way that you do. Nobody loves you the way that you do. So the least you can do is be kind to yourself.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. So, what's one belief you now choose daily that keeps you grounded in self love?
Definitely prioritizing my peace and really prioritizing myself. One of the biggest things is learning to listen to your body. When you learn to listen to your body, you give yourself the grace and the compassion by not forcing yourself to do things that you don't want to do. So many times we stay late at work or we'll hang out with friends that when we know we should be resting or we'll be doing some kind of activity around the house. But at the end of the day, our body is telling us you need to rest. So don't feel bad for taking rest for yourself. Don't feel bad for prioritizing yourself. I don't know when this started. I don't know why it started, but it said people would say self-care is selfish. Self-care is not selfish. Putting people before yourself by filling their cup and not filling your cup is selfish because at the end of the day, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So if you can't learn to fill up your own cup first, you definitely can't give to other people, places, or things. So definitely start with prioritizing yourself and filling your cup up first.
That's a game changer. When the voice in your head shifts from critic to champion,
Yeah, absolutely. You really have to shift that inner voice and you really have to learn how to take control of your thoughts because if you don't control your thoughts, then you're letting other people control your thoughts and your beliefs. If you can't explain why you believe something, it's not your belief, it's somebody else's. And that's actually a scary place to be because then you're allowing the people around you to shape your thoughts and shape your belief system. We're all human, we're all capable and worthy of having our own thoughts. So I always recommend is take control of your thoughts. Really listen to podcasts that can help you improve in areas that you're looking for improvement. Your social circles, where you hang out, where you get coffee, those are so important as well. If you just go to the local mom and pop shop around the corner and it's always the same people there just hanging out, having a good time versus going to another coffee shop down the street where you can co-work with people and meet new people. Those are two same coffee, but two different experiences. So really choosing where you spend your time and who you associate with, those are really important as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, breaking generational patterns is no small task. How can someone begin that work without feeling overwhelmed or guilty?
You can't feel guilty because if nobody understands your vision, you're on the right path because the vision and the dream was given to you, not to the other person. So, the first step is to just, you have to be okay with not being understood. And you have to be okay with not everybody is supporting you because most people won't support you. There might be one or two people that support you in the beginning and as you grow, but most people won't because what people do is if somebody knows you from a past version of you and they see you growing and changing and doing something different, well, because you're growing and changing, you are now forcing that person to grow and change. And by doing that, you're forcing them to see you as somebody they didn't expect. And so then it causes them to, and they don't like that. So most people don't like change. Most people like change, but what they don't like is forced change. So when they see you growing and changing, they typically won't support you because they're still holding on to a past version of yourself, of you, that no longer exists. And that can be a hard thing for people to accept. So know that it's going to be okay. You're not going to get a lot of support in the beginning from people you thought you will. And that's okay. But what's not okay is quitting on your dream just because people don't support you, because people will support you. You just haven't met them yet.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So, what's one healing practice that helped you cut cords with the past?
Really changing my thoughts from negative to positive and seeing an opportunity in everything. One of the biggest things is we have two choices every day when we wake up. We have the choice to see the negative or we have the choice to see the positive. We have the choice to be happy or we have a choice to be bitter and frustrated. It's all a choice. And at the end of the day, you choose your you make your choices. If you want to live a happy, fulfilled life, then you're I always recommend people think about what future you needs. What does the younger version of yourself need? And in order to be who you are now, and what does your future self need in order to get you to where you want to be? I think that's a really important topic because a lot of times we're holding on to this trauma from childhood and we need to be our own hero first. We need to understand what our inner child needs and then understand where we want to go and what would that person do that's our future self.
So powerful. Healing yourself is healing your lineage. It ripples forward and back.
Yes, completely. I think one of the biggest things is if you are, like I always say, if you're called to make a difference, you can feel it. You know, we all have a unique purpose and we all have a unique path. And don't be afraid of it. Instead, learn to lean into it. Understand that everybody here is for a purpose and everybody has their own purpose. So embrace what you have, embrace the gifts that you have, embrace the uniqueness, embrace being different. That's what makes you stand out is being different, not trying to fit in with everybody else. And I think one of the biggest things when it comes to breaking generational patterns is just being okay being different, being okay not being liked by everybody, being okay not taking the road less traveled because that's what it's going to take.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, what does falling in love with yourself actually look like day to day, beyond the buzzwords?
Yeah, it's definitely easier said than done, but falling in love with yourself every day is falling in love with who you really are, not what other people try to tell you that you are. I think a lot of times when we're growing up, whether we're in sports, in school, hobbies, hanging out with friends and family, they act a way and they try to shape us to who they think we should be. But at the end of the day, when you're in a period of isolation or taking the road less traveled, it gives you the opportunity to explore and discover who you are. And if that means falling in love with the way that you laugh, falling in love with the way that you clean the house, because everybody is so different. And you have to understand that nobody is perfect, but you are perfectly unique. And I think that's such a really big thing. I think don't be so hard on yourself. Us as humans, we're our own worst critics. So don't be so hard on yourself and really embrace who you are. You know, you can be a work in progress and love the quirky parts about yourself. You can be a work in progress and love the way that you love people. You can be a work in progress and love the way that you smile because mm, that's the most beautiful thing is falling in love with who you are, and then you're going to glow from that inside out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, how can someone start showing up for themselves when they have felt unworthy for years?
It really starts with your mindset by reprogramming your mind. For me, it was positive affirmations and listening to podcasts that were going to benefit me. For example, I would wake up every day and I would write on my mirror in my room with a whiteboard marker and say, I am worthy. And I would add one every single day. I am beautiful. I am loved. And then every time I looked in the mirror, I would see those words and I would repeat them. And then I would eventually build them into a habit to saying them throughout the day. And once you start saying those things, you may not believe it right away. And that's okay. I was there too. But what matters is that you keep the consistency to keep showing up for yourself and to keep telling yourself nice things. Go get your favorite cup of coffee. Go take yourself out to your favorite lunch spot. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but just fall in love with the little things about yourself and your life. There's so many things to be grateful for. And sometimes your worst day, sometimes one of your bad days is somebody's dream. So always be thankful and always show gratitude for everything, no matter what.
That's real. Sometimes radical self love looks like rest, boundaries, or no.
Completely. I highly encourage boundaries for anyone and everyone because I lacked boundaries. And that also is part of the reason why I got into such an unhealthy relationship is because there were no boundaries. And quite honestly, I was very uneducated about it. So now that's what I like to talk about these days as well is setting boundaries. If your friends ask you to go out on a Friday night and you had a long week at work and your body is like, I'm not really feeling this. Don't force yourself to go out. Don't drink the cup of coffee at 9 p.m. to push through a whole night of going out. Don't, if your family is throwing a family party and you're like, I'm just not feeling it today. That's okay. They're going to have to understand. If they respect your boundaries, they will understand. So I highly encourage enforcing them in all areas of your life because they're not to hurt other people. They're to protect your peace.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, for someone listening right now, ready to begin again, but scared, What's one thing they can do today to reclaim their power?
I highly encourage going on a walk and just really think about what you want out of this life. Everybody's dream life is so different. And a lot of times we think to ourselves, oh, we can look at someone and say, if I was in their position, I would do this. Or if I was in that person's position, I would do that. But at the end of the day, you are in your position and you are in your shoes. So think about what you would do. What do you want? What do you want in 5 years? How do you want to feel in 5 years? How do you want to look? How do you want to dress in 5 years? Those are such valid points and something that has helped me stay consistent with goals and my dreams is putting emotion to who I want to be, putting emotion to who I want to grow into. And whenever I'm faced with a choice, should I do this or should I do that? I think about what would that person in 5 years, 5 years from now, looking at that person, what would they do now? How would they feel if I stay disciplined now? How would they feel in the future if I decided to stay home on a Friday night now? How far along is it going to take them in the future? So it's really thinking about what you want, who you want to be, and what would that person do to get you to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And what mantra or truth do you hold close when life gets shaky?
Gratitude. You know, there everything is temporary, everything is a season. I come from a city where we get all 4 seasons all year round, and sometimes we even get all 4 seasons in one day. But that's also a lot of lessons. Like in the fall, the trees have beautiful, colorful leaves, and then in the winter they fall off, and then in spring they grow back, and in the summer they're blooming. And that just shows that everything is a phase, everything is a season. So be grateful for every season. If somebody is not being kind to you or somebody is taking more than giving back to you, be thankful because they're teaching you a lesson. If somebody it cuts you off in traffic. Be thankful. You don't know what kind of day they're having. Wish them the best and don't throw a fit. I think there's so much grace and compassion when you understand that when somebody is happy, they project happiness. But when somebody is upset or bitter, they're going to project bitterness. And it has nothing to do with you. It's usually a reflection of what they're going through. So don't ever take it personal and just really stay in your lane and focus on what you can do. Because there's only two things you can do in this life, and that's to control your actions and your attitudes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, healing isn't about fixing, it's about coming home to yourself.
Absolutely.
So, Anita, thank you for reminding us that our past doesn't define us, but our courage to rise from it does. And to our listeners, it's not too late. You're not too broken. You are the author of your next chapter. Until next time, choose yourself fiercely, heal loudly, and fall in love with who you're becoming.